Thank you for joining me today. This is a story about a room full of quilts. A room full of quilts that somehow reached more than 500,000 people. But it's much bigger than that. It's about what we create that outlives us. And it's about the impact that we are making in this world through the things that matter far more than money or anything that we can buy. My grandma thought she was making quilts. And when I shared this simple Facebook post, people clicked because of the quilts. There have been over 1,000 comments. There's been comments and stories people are sharing from all over the country. And what I learned is it's not really about the quilts. It's about the small choices that we make every day. It's about the traditions that we pass down. It's about the people that we sacrifice for, the people that we invest in, the conversations that we have, the things that continue impacting others long after we're gone. And today, I want to tell you that story. I want to talk to you up close and personal about the things in your life, the things in my life, the things that we're doing and not doing. But I want to start with my grandma's story and what actually led to this post that reached more than 500,000 people. Welcome to the Catalyst Table. I'm your host, Lisa Jenkins. For over 15 years, I have helped leaders, coaches, entrepreneurs, parents, and everyday people navigate real life and real challenges. This isn't a show about perfection. It's not about having all the answers, and it's definitely not about adding more noise to your life. It's about cutting through the noise, getting rid of the things that are not serving you. Here at the Catalyst Table, we're going to talk about what it actually takes to win. Catalysts don't sit on the sidelines waiting for perfect timing. They don't spend their lives reaching to everything around them. They take action, they grow, they learn, they lead, and they become who God created them to be. Each week, we are going to have honest conversations, practical strategies, powerful questions, and real life lessons that you can apply right now, today. So whether you're leading a team, building a business, raising a family, or just serving in the community, you are in the right place. Pull up a chair, let's get honest, let's get practical, and let's get started. My sister and I decided to go help my grandma. She has made a decision to move, and my grandpa is actually on hospice, and he's been on hospice for about 6 months, and my grandma is ready to downsize. And she's been going through a lot of things. She's been putting people's names on things like pictures and vases. And she's been calling all of us over to go through these things and take it now because she does not want to take these things with her. And my sister and I decided, hey, we need to go over and help her. We need to pack things up. We need to help her move things around. So we went over on a Saturday morning and we were joking about the quilts that we knew my grandma had. See, my grandma's had this closet full of quilts that she just keeps piling up. She will make a quilt, she will put it in a pillowcase, and she will put it in a closet. And she's had those quilts, some of them, for a really long time. A lot of people are asking, well, why did she hold on to these quilts? Why hasn't she handed these quilts out, especially after she finishes one? Well, my grandma has a lot of grandkids. She has a lot of great grandkids. She has her own kids. And I think that there has been a lot of fear about what will happen to these quilts once she gives them away. My grandma has always told us that she would give us the quilts when she goes to heaven, meaning it would be our job to give the quilts away after something happens to her. And it's always been kind of something that we've talked about, that we've joked about, that, we've honestly just been patient through the whole entire process because we knew that this was her thing. This was something that she desired. It's what she wanted. So we learned to be patient. But we've always thought about these quilts, and my grandma did give us quilts when we were younger. So I have a quilt that's about 33 years old that my grandma made me, and my mom makes quilts, and we have baby quilts, and she's handed out quilts to a lot of people in our family. Some of those quilts have been lost or they have not been taken care of, and I think that my grandma knows that, including my quilt. My kids have always used when they were sick. So if they were running a fever, they would use the quilt. And my quilt has always been used for that. So it has quite the story behind it. But I have a couple of things that are unraveling on my quilt. And I never wanted to show that to my grandma because we used it well. We loved it well. And not because she would probably say much about it. It's just that I didn't want her to think that I wasn't taking care of it. But I know that that was her feelings. So whether she was holding on to these quilts because she was afraid that people wouldn't take care of them, or she was afraid that they would get lost, or because she just didn't want to know. That's what I think was happening. Or maybe she was just simply keeping these quilts because she wanted to make sure that she had one for everyone. So that could be a possibility. And I will ask her. I'm going to have that conversation with her. But for right now, I think I know the answer. And again, a lot of people are asking that. So here we are going through these quilts one at a time, pulling out these quilts, and everyone has a name on them. And there were some that didn't. So here we're going through all the family and we're making sure that everyone has a quilt, and she's piling them up by family in this room. And I did share this picture on Facebook. It was a closet with two stacks of quilts, and I think each stack probably had more than 20. So there was quite a few quilts in this closet. And again, we're going through them and we're stacking them up. And my sister and I have this really big stack that we're both taking home. I ended up with two extra quilts because I loved the colors. And my grandma, she would go back and forth with whether she wanted to hand it to me. And I just kept saying, Grandma, I love that quilt. I love that quilt. And she had picked it up and she just put it in my pile without me knowing. And I love that because it is the one that I'm actually going to use on my bed. So here we are, we're getting all these quilts and we're taking out boxes of stuff that we had gotten from her that day. And we go home and we're both tired and we had a great day with my grandma, memories, and we laughed and there was a few tears. She had cried a few times, we had cried a few times. And I went home and I put a simple Facebook post about the day on my page. Post blew up. It was unexpected. After I shared that story online, something happened that completely surprised me. That post exploded. Right now, it has more than 500,000 views. Thousands. I think it's 7,500 likes and loves and over 1,000 comments. I've spent hours reading through those comments. I was curious. I wanted to know what everyone was saying. And yes, a lot of people said, why did she hold on to those quilts for so long? Why didn't she hand them out? Why do people care so much about them? Why were complete strangers sharing stories from their grandparents? This quilt post got a lot of attention. A lot of people were sharing the same words: treasure made with love, lots of pain, lots of sacrifice. My grandma has made them for my entire family. There was a couple of ladies who said, I think I should share them with my family now. Maybe I should let my kids come over and go through all of my quilts. Quilters understand the hours, the planning, the mistakes, the patience, the sacrifice, and the pain. And unless you have made a quilt, I don't think that you get it. I don't think that I get it. I have absolutely no interest in sewing. I can't sew at all. But quilters, I think that they give us a life lesson that we don't even see. They push through pain. Their hands are in pain. My grandma's hands are in pain when she is quilting. And you know what? She keeps on going. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of quilts I'm sure that my grandma has made. I don't even know how many at this point. I'm looking at my closet today and it's stacked high with quilts. My kids' quilts, my kids' baby quilts, the quilts that we got when we were younger. And I do not think that I had much thought about quilts or the time or the pain or the sacrifice until that post, until I read other people's stories, other people's thoughts, other people's love, other people's comments. It truly was amazing, but it wasn't just about quilts. It was about legacy. It was about treasure. It was about blessings. It was about gifts. It was about impacting people. But before we dive in more to that, I want to talk to you about the history of quilts because I didn't really think too much about it until after that post. And then I got curious. I was like, what is the actual history behind quilts? So, like many people, I've seen quilts my entire life. I own them, I use them, I wrap up in them when I'm cold. But I never really stopped to think about where quilts came from. Where did they start? Well, people have been making quilts for over 5,000. Think about that for a minute. 5,000 years, like long before electricity, long before sewing machines, long before Amazon could deliver a blanket to your front door. People were stitching pieces of fabric together by hand, one stitch at a time. Historians believe that some of the earliest quilting materials dated back to ancient Egypt. So, over time, quilting spread throughout Europe and eventually became part of life in America. Families used scraps because nothing was wasted. They did not waste material. What I learned was that they used old shirts, old dresses, worn out fabric, pieces of life that otherwise may have been thrown out. And somehow those scraps became something so beautiful. They became useful, something so meaningful. And somehow along the way, quilts became more than just a blanket. They became wedding gifts and baby gifts and family heirlooms, comfort during grief, comfort during sickness, like I shared a little bit ago, hope during difficult situations. They created memories and traditions, love stitched into fabric. And today, millions of people still quilt. Some make quilts for children, some make quilts for grandchildren, some for hospitals and veterans and foster kids, complete strangers and homeless people. And as I read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments this week, I kept asking myself, what happens if people stop making quilts? What happens if no one teaches the next generation to make another quilt? We won't just lose another craft. We're going to lose stories. We're going to lose traditions. We're going to lose family history. We will lose time together. We're going to lose something so big that says, I loved you enough to spend hundreds and hundreds of hours making something just for you. Because quilts were never about staying warm. They were about reminding someone that they mattered, that they belonged, that they were loved. And one sentence keeps coming back to me all week long, the things that I keep thinking about, the things that I wrote down so I would not forget, is quilts became stories that you could wrap yourself in. That actually gives me chills. And the more that I thought about it, the more that I realized this isn't just a story about quilts. It's a story about people, about love, and about legacy. And that's when I started to see my grandma and her quilting very differently. Did you know that the idea of legacy isn't new? In fact, God had been talking about legacy from the beginning of time. We tend to think about legacy as something that famous people leave behind. It's a building, right? It's a business. It's a foundation. It's a large sum of money. Oftentimes, when I talk to people about legacy, sometimes money is the thing that comes up. Money is the thing that people talk about getting left behind the most. But when you read scripture, that's not how God talks about legacy at all. God talks about legacy in ordinary moments, in everyday conversations, in simple acts of faithfulness. One of my favorite examples is in Deuteronomy 6. God tells his people, teach these things to your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. I want you to think about that for a minute. God didn't say, wait until you have a perfect lesson prepared. He didn't say, wait until your kids are older. He didn't say, wait until life slows down. He said, teach them as you live. Teach them while you're doing life together. Teach them around the dinner table. I have so much to say about the dinner table. My kids grew up around the dinner table, around conversations, and I think that that is what helped them create their future. You can teach them while you're driving down the road. You can teach them in ordinary moments like sewing. Legacy is often built in moments that we don't even know matter. It's built in conversation, it's built in examples, it's built in consistency, it's built in everyday life. Then Psalm 78 takes it even further. It says, "We will tell the next generation." I love that verse because it reminds me that stories matter, that faith matters, that truth matters, that things we pass down matter. Think about how much of what you believe today came from someone who shared a story with you: a parent, a grandparent, a pastor, a mentor, a teacher. Someone took the time to pass something on to you. And sometimes those stories that were shared are not things that you may want to remember. Take it from me. And again, we can talk about that in another episode because it's another one of those things that I have so much to say about. But today we're going to keep it on love and legacy and sacrifice and gifts and blessings and impact because it's your turn, not because you need to wait for a perfect moment, but because someone did it for us, because grandma did it for me. Because when she was making quilts, she was thinking of me. She was thinking of my sister. She was thinking of my cousins. She was thinking about her daughters. She was thinking about the people that mattered and the stories that she was creating with one stitch at a time. She almost waited until she was in heaven, but instead, she got to experience joy herself. She got to see the smiles. She's hearing the stories. She's getting to talk to us about putting it on our bed and how to take care of it and what we should do. She's getting to watch people receive something that she spent years creating. And then there's Proverbs 31. Her children arise and call her blessed. And when I read that verse this week, I couldn't stop thinking about my grandma, not because she's perfect, because she's not. None of us are, right? Not because she has everything figured out, because she doesn't, but because she's faithful, faithful through all the hard seasons, faithful through all the family challenges, faithful through years of showing up, faithful through seasons nobody saw, faithful when it wasn't easy, faithful when it was. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. We live in a world obsessed with big moments, big wins, big numbers, big platforms, big recognition. But God seems to be far more interested in our faithfulness, the kind of faithfulness that quietly shows up year after year, the kind that doesn't need applause, the kind that keeps loving, the kind that keeps serving, the one that keeps giving, that keeps showing up. And that's what I see when I look at those quilts. I don't just see fabric, I see faithfulness. I see thousands of hours. I see consistency, I see sacrifice, and I see love. And maybe that's why this story resonated with so many people, because deep down, we know the truth. Faithfulness leaves fingerprints on generations long after we're gone. Long after people forget what we said, long after they forget what we owned, they'll remember how we loved. They'll remember how we showed up. They'll remember the things that we passed on. And that's what legacy really is. Which brings me back to my grandma, because what happened in that room full of quilts taught me more about legacy than almost anything I've ever experienced. When I was reading all the comments, I kept coming back to, my grandma isn't famous. She is not an influencer. She's not trying to build a platform. She wasn't trying to go viral. She was just sewing quilts. And yet, over 500,000 people have now seen her story. That hit me because I think we spend a lot of time wondering if what we're doing matters. Does this matter? Does anyone notice? Am I making a difference? Am I leaving something behind? And then I look at those quilts with thousands of hours, with years of work, with years of consistency, with years of showing up, one stitch at a time. I start asking myself, how many things are we doing right now that feel ordinary, but somehow God is using it to impact people in ways that we'll never fully understand? Listen, it may not be quilts for you. It's not quilts for me either. Maybe it's the meals that you make. Maybe it's the prayers that you pray. Maybe it's the teenagers showing up at your house, like my house last night. Maybe it's the way you encourage people. Maybe it's the way that you serve at church. Maybe it's the conversations that no one else sees. Maybe it's the simple faithfulness where God has planted you. If this quilt story has taught me anything, it's taught me that legacy isn't usually something built on one big moment. It's built on thousands of small ones. And that's exactly what I see when I look at my grandmother. Not perfection, but faithfulness. And faithfulness leaves fingerprints on generations, which brings me back to the room of quilts. Legacy isn't something you leave behind when you die. It's something that you build every single day. Legacy costs something. It's not just money. It's time, it's energy, it's patience, it's sacrifice, and it's pain. What if the investment becomes bigger than the inconvenience? Because we're all inconvenienced. And I think that sometimes we forget that because when I look at my grandma and I look at the room full of quilts, I also think how much her hands probably hurt, how much sewing she did, how much time she spent in that basement, how much time she spent planning, how much time she picked out material, how much time she had to take something apart to put something back together again. My grandmother, she understood something that most of us forget. Sometimes you have to take something apart before you can create something beautiful, before you can create something worthwhile, before you can create something that changes lives, before you create something that makes a real impact in the lives of the people around you. Every quilt started as pieces, different colors, different materials, different stories, and she spent hours cutting and sorting and sewing and removing and adjusting and starting over when something wasn't right. She wasn't afraid of the work because she could see the possibilities. She could feel what it was going to be like to give it away to somebody. She could just imagine the looks on their faces. And it got me thinking, what are you trying to put together right now? A business, a ministry, a marriage, a family, a healthier version of yourself? Aren't we all trying to do that from time to time? What are you willing to? What am I willing to take apart, to rearrange, to sacrifice, or let go of so you can build what God is calling you to build? Because every meaningful thing that we build requires some level of inconvenience. Listen, growth is inconvenient. Change is inconvenient. Learning is inconvenient. Building something that matters is inconvenient. The question isn't whether it will cost you something. The question is whether what you're building is worth the sacrifice. I ask myself that all the time. I am human. I am just like you. So I'm not just throwing these questions at you. I'm sitting back and I'm thinking about it and I'm questioning as well. This quilt story has brought up so many things for me. Next week, we're going to go even deeper because I looked at those quilts and I realized they were not just blankets, they were lessons. Lessons about patience, lessons about sacrifice, lessons about faithfulness, lessons about what we're building that will outlive us. Plus, I want to dive deeper into what you're building right now that might just become someone else's blessing tomorrow. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss it. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm excited that you're here, and I really hope that I got your wheels spinning. I hope you take the time to think about what you're leaving behind, and I really hope that you think about the conversations and the moments that you are creating with the people that you are investing in and the things that you are building one day at a time. Because I want you to remember something. Legacy isn't built on one moment. It's built through thousands of small ones. One conversation, one act of love, one sacrifice, one prayer, one day at a time. Have an awesome day. I will talk to you next week.